I had been with Silas for 8 years. No proposal, no marriage certificate, no wedding. Because he only needed a de facto marriage. The reason? Signing a prenuptial agreement was too much trouble. He tried to convince me, saying that as long as we were together for the long haul, it didn't matter. I didn't care about his money, and it was me he loved, not that marriage certificate. Actually, the logic wasn't flawless. The only reason I was persuaded was that I loved him. But then that girl in her early 20s appeared at my studio holding Silas's engagement ring. Silas proposed to me at the church. I've been there every night you talked on the phone. You're getting old. Stop holding on to Silas. Silas's work was demanding, always flying around the world for business trips and overtime. A few days ago, he flew to San Francisco again. While I was getting a facial with Jessa, she told me I was foolish, not knowing how to tie him down. I felt a little awkward. I'm living with someone, not raising a dog. Why would I tie him down? She laughed after hearing that. You've been with Silas since before you even graduated from college. You're almost 30. You should be more vigilant. Silas is good-looking, wealthy, and many women are waiting to win him over. You don't even have a marriage certificate. If someone else comes along, you won't even have the status of a wife. I felt a bit stifled after hearing that. Silas shouldn't be like that. I trust him. Jessa, admiring her manicure, stared at me thoughtfully for a while. I'm not talking nonsense. Look at this account. The algorithm pushed it to me. She handed over her phone, showing me a girl's profile. Her nickname was Lulu, and it had a cartoon avatar. I scrolled through the posts and the IP address was in the US. What a coincidence. Silas had also been on a business trip to the US for the past month. The most recent post showed the view from the window of a high-end restaurant. Steak, red wine, and flowers. No people were visible, just a shot of a man's hand across the table and a mechanical watch on his wrist. Look, that's the one you had custom-made for him in Italy, right? Jessa took back the phone and went back to her nails. She was trying to remind me but not make me uncomfortable, keeping it subtle. I felt a bit down but still said, it's normal for friends and colleagues to eat together. I don't want to play Sherlock in this relationship. Huh. Won't cry until you see the coffin, she teased. Do you arrange flowers and wine for every casual dinner? I stubbornly responded, that's how it goes when I had dinner with you, Jessa. Jessa then remembered the last time I visited her house. I brought flowers, opened wine, and we drank until the early morning. She waved at me with a smile. Just wait. When you're begging me for a lawyer, I'll make sure to get you a big settlement. I was busy. After finishing my beauty treatments, I had to rush back to the studio. After changing into my work clothes, I stared at my phone, looking at the pin chat icon again and again. But still no messages had come through. Even if I sent one, he wouldn't be able to see it immediately because of the time difference. He should be asleep by now. I focused again, taking the gauze from the warehouse and heading to the paint room to dye some fabrics. The studio was a custom silk flower shop specializing in dyeing various fabrics and creating silk flower designs. Recently, I'd received a proposal order that required lifelike peonies to decorate a space of around 60 square meters. The design and the site were already finalized, and they'd paid a deposit of $50,000. I couldn't handle it alone, but luckily I had a few art students working part-time who could help, so I expected we'd finish early. The phone rang. I took off my gloves and answered on speaker. Silas's voice was a bit hoarse, as if he was still recovering from a hangover. Still busy. I didn't answer, continuing my work. Can you pick me up from the airport tomorrow at 7:30? Sure. I want to eat braised pork. Can you make the soup I like? All right. Perhaps sensing that I wasn't paying full attention, Silas added, Sweetheart, I'll be back tomorrow. I got you a gift. His person and gift hadn't arrived yet, but the surprise related to him arrived first when I got home that evening. A strange woman had searched my phone number and added me on WeChat. Coincidentally, her nickname was also Lulu. I took a screenshot and sent it to Jessa. Jessa replied immediately. Oh, you haven't even called, but someone's knocking on your door. Don't be shy, accept it. I accepted the request, but she didn't send any messages. My moments was mostly filled with promotional posts for the studio, not much personal life. About 10 minutes later, I received a like notification. It was from last year's Chishi festival. Silas had returned from Japan and brought me a doll. We had taken a photo together holding the doll's hand. I sent another screenshot to Jessa. Does this count as declaring war? She's digging through last year's moments. What do you think? But I don't feel angry. What should I do? Don't you love Silas anymore? If one comes, go for it. If two come, get a pair. Time for the wife's defense. I looked at my phone and forwarded the screenshot to Silas. A few minutes later, when I checked my moments again, the like had disappeared. Silas didn't reply to my message, nor did he call. I smiled. No need to rush into a fight. Let them make the first move. I took a shower and went to sleep. The flight was on time and I arrived almost exactly on time. Silas, pulling a black suitcase and wearing a knee-length trench coat, tall and handsome, strode toward me. His hair had been cut shorter, making him look more refreshed. He hugged me tightly, burying his face in my neck and taking a deep breath. Wife, I missed you so much. I smiled and pushed him away, then drove us home. I drove and he sat in the passenger seat, resting with his eyes closed, his phone charging in the center console. While waiting for the traffic light, his phone lit up. Lulu had sent a message. Silas glanced at his phone but didn't pick it up. I asked, I sent you a message yesterday. Why didn't you reply? He furrowed his brow and pretended to be confused. Did you? He picked up his phone, opened the chat with me and handed it to me. There was no screenshot I had sent. I gave him a profound look, not speaking, putting some pressure on him. When did you send it? I didn't get it. He started explaining desperately. What did you send? I really didn't receive it. His acting was so poor it was almost painful to watch. The light turned green, and I pressed the accelerator. Men are peculiar creatures. Even when standing before the woman who has shared 8 years of his life, he still believes his lies are flawless. If you suspect there's a snake in the grass, just probe a little. It will expose itself in panic. And when a person lies, they want you to believe them. They start trying to prove they're right, to prove you're wrong, or even to prove that it was WeChat's fault. Once he starts proving, you know he's afraid. A liar always fears being seen through. I suddenly wondered how old that girl was. Her provocation, her infatuation, her love. Was it the same reckless devotion I had at 20? When I loved Silas, how far had things gone between them? When we got home, he unpacked as if nothing had happened and changed his clothes. I reheated the dishes in the microwave. He took out a small jewelry box, presenting it proudly like a child showing off a treasure. 8-year anniversary gift. I took it and set it casually on the dining table. He followed and hugged me from behind. Why don't you open it? Still mad. I really didn't get your messages. If I had, I would have replied right away. It won't happen again. All right. I opened the box. Inside was a ring, 8 years late. He urged me to try it on while we ate. I slid the diamond ring onto my left ring finger. Size 11, my exact fit. I took a photo and posted it on my moments. Was I showing off our love? Yes. Was I showing off our love? No. Jessa messaged immediately. You really know how to fish for evidence. Make sure you save it. If Silas has truly wronged you, I swear I'll peel his skin off. This isn't just a wife's battle. It's a lawyer's dignity on the line. I replied with a smile. Thanks, Jessa. The fish took the bait faster than I expected. The next morning, not long after my studio opened, a petite girl walked in. She carried a brand new luxury handbag, straightened her back, lifted her chin, and sat firmly on the sofa. My studio was all white. She wore a lavender dress, around 20, fresh-faced and radiant, probably not even graduated yet. We're not hiring any more part-timers, I said, carrying out a roll of dyed silk from the workshop and placing it on the table. My apron was speckled with pigment. My long hair was twisted loosely into a bun. I smiled at her. I'm not here for a job. Her voice was high-pitched, almost offended, as if part-time work were an insult. I'm Lulu. I pulled the hairpin from my bun and massaged my scalp. I don't know you. What do you want? Her eyes, thick with false lashes, fluttered innocently. My boyfriend's contact list has your name in it, so I came to ask, what's your relationship with Silas? I leaned against the table and looked at her in silence. A straightforward one, this girl. And clever too. She had already claimed Silas as her boyfriend. That would make me the other woman. But if Silas was her boyfriend, then what exactly was he to me? Also her boyfriend? Jessa was right. I didn't even have a right to refute. Seeing me quiet, she picked up her bag and said coldly, "Stay away from Silas. For the past half-month we spent every day together. From Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco to the Golden Gate Bridge. We've had romantic dinners." She raised her left hand, flashing a ring. "We went to a church. He proposed to me there, gave me this engagement ring. I've been there for every call he made. He mentioned an ex-girlfriend. Asked me to help him pick out a diamond ring. Silas said it was a farewell gift. After all, she's been with him for 8 years, and he never bought her one. You're that ex-girlfriend, aren't you?" I picked up my water glass, nearly choking as I took a sip, then raised my hand, showing her the 2-carat diamond on my finger. "You're saying this is Silas's farewell gift?" She nodded. I let out a short laugh, grabbed my phone and dialed Silas on speaker. His deep, lazy voice came through. "Hey babe." He always took a few days off after a business trip. He must still be in bed. I asked, "So the diamond ring you gave me last night, that was a breakup gift?" Silence. Long and heavy. I glanced at Lulu. "There's a young lady here saying you proposed to her in the States. Is that true?" Beep beep beep. He hung up. Then Lulu's phone rang. From the look on her face, someone was yelling at her on the other end. Her eyes reddened, tears spilling fast and hot. I slipped off the ring and dropped it into my half-empty glass. It sank heavy and soundless like a drowning whale. I've always wondered. In a love triangle, why must I be the one stuck in the middle, forced to process the conflicting stories? Lulu says Silas loves her. Silas would say he doesn't. Then let them face each other directly. Let them tear each other apart while I step cleanly out of the mess. No blood on my hands. Once the call finally ended, I had already cut flower-shaped pieces of silk. Lulu's eyes were red as a rabbit's. She looked like she wanted to leave but couldn't. Finally, she mustered up the courage and walked toward me. I put down my scissors and teased her lightly. "What's wrong?" "Your ex-boyfriend scolded his current girlfriend for confronting his ex." "You old woman," she snapped. I couldn't even be angry. I still felt a twinge of pity for her. For her youth. At that age, who doesn't think love is everything? Don't waste your energy on Silas. You'll meet someone better. A kind warning. But she didn't take it well. She shoved at the silk on my work table, sending it spilling onto the floor. "You're almost 30, old and fading. How could you compare to me? Men will always want the young and the beautiful. Silas doesn't love you anymore. 8 years and he never married you. Don't you get it? When he's with me, he says he loves me, that he'll marry me. If I were you, I would have left long ago. You tell me to leave him, yet you're the one clinging to him. You really have no shame." It turned out they hadn't just gone to the US together. They had gotten engaged and had a relationship. Silas had indeed given me quite the surprise. There was a dull ache in my chest, and I couldn't even remember the last time my heart had hurt like this. Moreover, to be told off by a young girl like that. It was hard to maintain my dignity. I turned on the faucet at the counter to wash my hands and calm myself before speaking. "Although I'm telling you this, you probably won't understand. In your world, appearance and age are what you take pride in. But for me, being close to 30 doesn't affect anything. Silas being with me isn't just about my looks or age. What makes me lovable isn't just my face. Only those with nothing but their looks and age left will make those their trump cards." Her eyes widened, and a mocking smile appeared on her face. "You're so ridiculous, fooling yourself with that kind of talk." I stared at Lulu, standing arrogantly with red-rimmed eyes, and said slowly, "Fooling myself? Didn't the phone call just now say everything? The one crying is not me. It's you." Lulu couldn't argue back. Enraged, she picked up a water cup from the table and threw it at me. In that split second, someone grabbed my arm and pulled me aside. The water drenched that person instead. Then came the sharp sound of metal hitting the floor. The engagement ring rolled out, stopping next to his house slippers. "Silas!" Lulu gasped and immediately pulled out a tissue from her bag, trying to wipe his chest, but Silas grabbed her wrist and threw her aside, shouting, "Get away!" "Sweetheart," he said, scanning me from head to toe, then wiped the water droplets from my hair. His face looked guilty and nervous, his eyes full of panic. I looked at him coldly, and he awkwardly placed his hands on my shoulders, wanting to explain but not daring to speak. One lie needed another to cover it. Telling lies takes time. At that moment he couldn't come up with one. I pulled my shoulders out of his grasp as if nothing happened, gathered my long hair, and pinned it up with a wooden hairpin. I spoke in a low voice. "Clean this up and take her away." I picked up the pieces of fabric from the floor and walked into the paint room. Two part-time girls peeked through the door, unsure of how long they had been watching, and followed me into the paint room. Who was that man? Should we call the police? No need. Let's just work. The aftermath was for the person who caused it to clean up. I wasn't the one to bear the cost of this. I wasn't the type to quietly wash my hands and move on. When I left the paint room, Silas was still sitting on the couch wearing the same home outfit. The counter and floor had been cleaned up. When he saw me, he immediately walked over, grabbed my hand, and with his other hand pulled out the ring from his pocket, trying to slide it onto my left hand's ring finger. I bent my knuckle. The ring got stuck at the joint. His hand trembled as he said, "Sweetheart, this is our anniversary ring. You said you wanted one before, so I bought it for you." I pulled my hand away from his. "Silas, how was America?" He didn't answer. "Why didn't you tell me you were getting married? After all, I've known you for a long time. Shouldn't I be giving you a wedding gift? How much money would be appropriate?" Silas's face turned pale. After a long pause, he spoke. "Sweetheart, let's talk about this at home." I shook my head and pushed him out. "You move out for the next few days. I'm changing the smart lock code. You have the afternoon to pack your things." The apartment in the city center was planned and styled with Silas step by step, something we had discussed and made real. When we got the keys, Silas hugged me from behind and said, "Wow, we have our own home now." I had overseen every step of the renovation, watching it transform from a bare shell into a home. After leaving the studio in the afternoon, I bought some fast food. 8 years ago I couldn't cook. It was because of Silas. He often had to deal with jet lag, lived irregularly, and had a bad stomach, so I learned to make all sorts of homemade dishes, clean and nutritious. My cooking skills improved, and he always ate happily. I opened the door. There was an open suitcase in the living room, clothes tossed in a messy pile. Silas sat on the couch, his face grim. I placed the fast food on the dining table. Turning to look at him, I realized I had always packed his luggage after checking the weather at his destination. The esteemed company CIO never did such mundane things. I walked over to the display shelf in the living room, picked up a metal knight figurine, and tossed it into the suitcase. "This is the souvenir we bought at the museum. You stood in line to buy it and said the knight should be placed somewhere visible in the house to protect his princess." I picked up a photo frame, a 9-photo grid. There was a photo from each year, and we were missing the one for next year, so I tossed it into the suitcase. "This is the photo we started taking in our first year together. You said it would record how we slowly grew older together, and you even told me to leave space on the wall for more pictures. How many more do we need before we grow old together? 8 years together, so many memories we shared." I was about to throw more things away when Silas walked over, his tall figure enveloping me, his presence strangely fragile. "I was wrong. I'm sorry. Forgive me this time. I'll never do it again." If saying sorry actually worked, why would we need the police? Holding a ceramic bride doll in my hand, I raised it high and smashed it on the ground. "If you don't leave, I will." Sometimes people are too soft-hearted and let others think that their bottom line can be constantly pushed back. We need some time apart. It was the 10th day since I moved into Jessa's place. Jessa was always busy, running to clients, going to court, working out, and socializing. She also found time for beauty treatments and manicures once a week. She told me to make myself at home. I reorganized her house according to her habits, got rid of some things, and bought new ones. When she came home every day, there was freshly cooked food, cut fruits, and clothes washed and dried, with a floor so clean you could walk barefoot. Sometimes I even packed her lunch for work. She exaggerated, her eyes wide in disbelief. Modern-day Cinderella. I finally understand why all these successful men need good wives. "Wife, I need you too. You'll always have a place in my house. From now on, I'll work to support you." I caught her in a big hug and laughed. It's not that dramatic. I just like my place to be tidy and refreshing. I want it to be warm, safe, and full of love. She waved her hand. Stop. Too much of the wife material vibe. I can't do it. I don't like doing things like this. You sound just like my mom. I rolled my eyes. I didn't ask you to do this. You've got the abilities of a lawyer and the ambition to expand your business. She replied. Find yourself a boyfriend to do these things for you. Or maybe a pampered husband wouldn't hurt either. Her eyes lit up, nodding frantically. It was hard to imagine the sharp, witty powerhouse lawyer Jessa next to a man in an apron. I deliberately lowered my voice, pretending, Honey, come eat some fruit I peeled. We burst into laughter on the couch. Jessa said, You're not doing this for Silas. You're doing it because that's just who you are. Whoever lives with you will benefit. I'll never joke about being a pampered wife around you again. I picked up a slice of melon from the coffee table and took a bite. Jessa's life priorities were different from mine. I've always been someone who preferred staying at home, avoiding socializing, and my world has always been small. And so was my heart. Small enough to hold only one best friend, small enough to hold only one person I love. Admitting you're different from others is as painful as admitting that you're the same. For example, acknowledging that I'm a stereotypical pampered wife was a bit too much for my pride. After the laughter faded, Jessa said, Seriously, I don't want to be his spokesperson, but he's downstairs in the parking garage. I'll pass the message on. Whether you go or not is up to you. It was that black SUV. Silas had been leaning against it. Who knows how long? As soon as he saw me step out of the elevator, he straightened up and walked toward me. Wife, I came to take you home. The departure had been so rushed. There were still things left in the house that I needed to get. I sat in the passenger seat. His steps were light, but when we reached the house, he seemed to grow a little nervous. I glanced at him curiously. He just smiled back at me. Every time we argued before, he'd just smile at me like that, and I'd soften, choosing not to stay angry. When we entered the apartment, it wasn't pitch black. Warm yellow light flickered from candles in the entryway, leading the way to the bedroom. He opened the wardrobe and took out a bundle of bright red roses, handing them to me. Happy birthday. Oh right. Today was my birthday. I didn't take the flowers. I followed the candle path to the dining room, where a cake sat on the table, decorated with a cartoon figure in a wedding dress. Next to the cake was the ceramic bride I had smashed last time. Silas had carefully glued it back together, and though it looked whole, it was covered in cracks. He turned on the ambient lights and pulled a jewelry box from his pocket. He knelt solemnly on one knee. I'm sorry. Please give me another chance. Let's start over. Marry me, okay? I won't make the same mistakes again. A proposal that was 8 years late. You see, proposals are simple. Just a bouquet of flowers, a ring, and the right moment to express your feelings. Such a simple thing, yet he had delayed it for 8 whole years. You're proposing to me now. What about Lulu? I looked down at him. Bigamy is punishable by law. We were just playing around. In my heart, you're the only wife I have. He looked up at me, but I towered over him. Honey, I've picked out a wedding dress for you. It's on the bed in the bedroom. We'll get married next month. Let's invite all our college friends and family. No prenuptial agreement. I want to share everything with you. Marry me, okay? He repeated his plea. Logically, this was the scene I once imagined. A person I loved putting effort and time into planning a proposal, our feelings aligning, ready to spend a lifetime together. Jessa also advised me. As long as Silas is willing to get a marriage certificate with his background, he'd never dare to divorce. It would be much easier to control him later. And yet, this was the same man I had spent 8 years of youth with. Emotionally and logically, I should accept. But at this moment, I could only laugh. I took out my phone and opened the chat with Lulu. There was only one image from her. I zoomed in and held it in front of him. The report listed Lulu's name, department, obstetrics and gynecology, test item, human chorionic gonadotropin, clinical diagnosis, pregnancy. When had I stopped loving him? Was it when I saw through his lies? Or when I found out he'd taken Lulu to the States? Or was it when I kept attending other people's weddings, witnessing their happiness? Or was it when I stayed alone in a huge empty house while he was always out on business? I've forgotten. But whatever feelings of tenderness or deep affection I once had for him were swept away like dust in a storm, leaving behind nothing but indifference. Jessa heard about Silas's proposal and was indignant for me. Late love is worse than grass. You've wasted more than 8 years. I sighed. Yes, it was a waste, but dating is like buying stocks. You have to know when to cut your losses. You can't throw your whole life into something just because of sunk costs. There's no need to say, I've been with Silas for 8 years, as if I'm the one who's pitiful. The force of time is mutual. It hasn't just left a mark on me. He spent the same years with me. It's just that our fate has run its course. Lulu's appearance is just a coincidence. Jessa clicked her tongue. You really know how to let go. Me? I can't. I'm going to make sure you get your compensation. For a lawyer, only financial loss is a real loss. We agreed to meet at a newly opened tea house. I didn't expect Lulu to be there as well, which surprised me. Silas looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. They had arrived before me, and on the coffee table there was a cigarette pack. He probably hadn't smoked for 5 or 6 years. He'd quit a long time ago because I didn't like the smell. Jessa didn't greet anyone. She just pulled a stack of documents from her briefcase and tossed them onto the table. Silas, you need to have some integrity. She's been with you for so many years. Now tell me, how much is the breakup fee? Silas took a lighter out of his pocket, prepared to light a cigarette, but glanced at me and put it down. He really shouldn't light it here. There was a pregnant woman in the room. He asked, how much do you want? Jessa was blunt. 8 million. The number startled Lulu. 8 million. You really have the nerve to ask for that much. You think an old woman like her is worth 8 million. She had called me an old woman so many times already. And while it stung, I couldn't exactly refute it since I was indeed older than her. Silas furrowed his brow, glancing at me with a tired look in his eyes, then let out a low sigh. How much are you asking for? I avoided his gaze, turning toward Lulu. I thought to myself that if he brought her along in this situation, he must have been deeply attached. I took a box from my bag but hadn't yet handed it over. Silas, almost as if sensing it, stood up and grabbed my wrist. The watch. I pulled his hand away and opened the box, pushing it toward him. I was planning to send it back to you by mail, but I thought I'd return it to you in person today. He opened the box, his expression tense, revealing the same women's watch that matched the one on his wrist. It was our token of love. Lulu reached for it, but Silas covered her hand with his. After tense silence and a long pause, he lit a cigarette. I frowned. He took a drag and through the smoky haze fixed his gaze on me. His voice was slow and deliberate. How much do you want? You just name a price and I'll give it to you. I slung my canvas bag over my shoulder, preparing to leave. Actually, how much I get isn't up to me. It's up to you. No matter the amount, it won't change my life. Whether it's a lot or a little, I'll continue living at my own pace. Lulu interrupted. You talk so well, but it's just because you think 8 million isn't enough. My eyes brushed past her face as I continued. Instead of constantly asking me how much I want, why not ask yourself, how much would it take for you to heal from the guilt and betrayal of a relationship? How much would it take for you to find peace in your heart? Silas, you see, she just wants more. Lulu interrupted again. You're shameless, utterly hypocritical. She'd interrupted me so many times that an uncomfortable frustration started to well up inside me. And with the air in the room thick with smoke, I was becoming uneasy. I laughed bitterly. Silas, you have terrible taste. She's so rude. Lulu ignored me and clung to Silas's arm. We can't give her that much. We still have to save for the baby. Jessa widened her eyes and stared at me with the expression of someone hearing shocking gossip, as if my head were glowing green. You're really putting up with this. She's pregnant, and you're still going along with it. But Silas was faster than my reaction. I saw him slap Lulu across the face. The sound was a sharp smack. Lulu's face turned bright red instantly. Jessa's expression shifted in shock at the sudden slap. What? Lulu, in disbelief, cupped her face. Silas, you hit me. I'm carrying your child. Are you even a man? Silas raised his hand again and slapped her once more. Even Jessa, who had been watching silently, couldn't sit still anymore. She grabbed me urgently, her eyes full of questions. What was going on? Didn't you break up for true love? Why are things turning violent? I shook my head. Lulu, her eyes bloodshot, scanned the room. She probably never expected Silas to humiliate her so openly. Her face turned pale with embarrassment. She slapped him back with all her strength. Silas's face darkened even further. I didn't want to watch this spectacle any longer. I didn't want to stay in this room for another second. I cast a sympathetic glance at Jessa before walking out of the room. Jessa remained still for a moment, and I heard her voice before I left. Although she says it doesn't matter how much, I'm her agent and I care. Mr. Silas, we need to have a talk. Jessa told me Silas changed drastically after our breakup. After I left, the two of them nearly got into a fight in the private room and didn't reach any conclusions. She grabbed my waist tightly. You knew Lulu was pregnant a long time ago, and yet you didn't say anything. The day Lulu sent me the diagnosis report, I had smiled at the screen for a long time. How could something so ridiculous exist in this world? Lulu, did you know that Silas is infertile? I still remembered the night Silas proposed to me. I handed him Lulu's report. Silas collapsed when he read it, his head dropping low until he was kneeling on both knees. As I opened the cake on the table, I said, Mr. Silas, you might be getting married, but I'm not the bride. You asked me if I would marry you. My answer is yes. 2,000 times yes. But not this time. His shoulders trembled as he stood up, tears welling in his eyes. His voice was hoarse and full of hurt. You knew the child couldn't be mine. I took a spoonful of cake. It was both sweet and cloying. I know you're infertile. Being with you means I'll never have our own child, but I still chose to be with you to take care of your food, clothing, and living. 8 whole years. Because I once loved you. I sighed and looked around at the surroundings, so familiar yet now unbearable. Now I don't love you anymore. Your house, your words, the way you talk. Everything about you that once felt so familiar now makes me sick. Let's break up as you wish. We don't have a marriage certificate, no ties, no need for any procedures. From now on we are strangers. Silas could never make someone pregnant. Lulu was carrying someone else's child, but that was Silas's private matter, and I had never told anyone. Jessa took a large sip of water, dramatically placing her hand on her chest. You really know how to keep a secret. I underestimated you. Silas should have slapped her harder. So Lulu's willing to do anything to climb up, and she had no qualms about hiding information. Hey, do you think Silas would tell Lulu about this? Jessa was relishing in the gossip, savoring it for days. I deleted all of Silas's contact information. I never asked about him again. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. My assistant and I ran back and forth more than 10 times, finally completing the arrangement for the studio's previous marriage proposal order. I looked at the decorated, warm, and romantic space, feeling content. Peonies of various sizes bloomed layer by layer inside, creating a sense of fulfillment. The person who placed the order mentioned that his girlfriend liked peonies but had never once been to Luoyang to see them. On the afternoon of the proposal, I went to the scene to shoot some promotional material. When a group of friends brought in a girl wearing an eye mask, she was shouting, "I'll take my losses. A haunted house is just a haunted house. I'm not scared." It was probably an excuse to play truth or dare. She lost and was brought here with her eyes covered. The surroundings gradually quieted down. The male protagonist, a fresh-faced and handsome young man, mischievously blew a cold breath at her from behind. The girl, thinking she was in a haunted house, was clearly startled. She kept muttering, "It's all NPCs pretending. It's all NPCs pretending." The male protagonist grabbed her hand, and she pulled away shouting, "Don't touch me. Asher will be angry." "Really? You remember exactly what I said." The boy named Asher spoke, laughing as he hugged her. The girl excitedly ripped off her eye mask. "You're back early." Then she looked around and found herself in a sea of peonies. Red and passionate, white and pure, layered with varying densities. Their photos were printed on a billboard, and their friends were recording with their phones. A cheerful English song played through the speakers. "So I count to 3 and get on one knee." Asher took out a ring and followed the song, getting down on one knee, the music volume lowered. The peonies bloom every year, but I want you to remember. The peonies blooming in this lifetime are only for you. Marry me, and we'll be together forever. Jessa arrived to deliver something to me just in time for the live proposal. We sat in the corner watching the young couple in the center of the crowd. Both of their eyes were moist. Tears fell from my eyes one by one. Jessa said, "This is so touching." The two women in their late 20s embraced each other. No matter how old we get, love still touches us. The person who came to pay the final balance wasn't Asher, who had paid the deposit. It was a tall man in his early 30s, wearing gold-rimmed glasses with an aloof aura that made it clear he wasn't easy to approach. The loose white linen outfit, wrinkle-free, didn't soften the cold air that seemed to surround him. I was still eating the lunch I had prepared myself at the workbench when he walked in and went straight to the point. "I'm here to pay the balance for Asher." I watched his proposal video. "The setup in your studio is very artistic, and the way you handled the silk dyeing is well done. I'd like to commission your studio to create a series of flower designs for me." He handed me a tablet. His fingers were long and clean, radiating the same cold vibe. I put down my chopsticks, thinking how rude it was that he didn't even make small talk or wait for me to finish my meal. I quickly scanned the pictures of the flower designs, zooming in to examine the color gradients and layer rendering. It was quite challenging, but I looked up at him about to speak. "The budget isn't an issue. I can pay a 200,000 yuan deposit up front. Money isn't a problem when it can solve issues." "All right, no problem. We can do it." He skillfully scanned the QR code on the table, added me on WeChat, and said it would be easier to communicate details in the future. I accepted his request. He also left his phone number and address, explaining that his assistant would come tomorrow to sign the contract. Then he left. I heard the sound of a payment notification. A deposit of 200,000 yuan had been received. My heart leapt with joy. See, as long as you walk firmly in the sunlight, even if you're a single woman about to turn 30, good things will still happen.